Just wondering, how is your work seen there?
I know that on the Facebook I get all sorts of responses to my work from Iran, right? But and a couple galleries approached me about showing my work in Iran. I only can show the Max Future series because with the photographs of the teenagers, you don't depict images like that. You don't show images like that. It just would not go well with the government. But the Max Future, because they're so proud of their Persian heritage anyway, and the Max Future are very small. They really don't show the faces up front. It's not clear who they are, so I can show them. I have not shown them yet to this date. One of my Max Future was on the cover of the photographic magazine that comes quarterly, and I asked him actually, I said, are you sure this is not going to have any problems? And he said, I do have an image, I don't know whether you put it in there, but it was Martyrdom, where I actually depicted my son in my lab, very much like the Jesus.
No, we didn't show that.
We didn't show that one. And she said, the only one who will not be able to show is that one, because of course my son had only the underwear, But other than that, they can show. And what she said was very curious. She said, the galleries are much more open to the audiences that are secular, so not really very religious people come to see these images, so they are sort of unaware of some of these images. And I try to work outside of Iran, not in Iran, because I like my freedom to be able to walk around the city, because once they know I am this artist, they would probably watch me limited in my movement, traveling in Iran. So I prefer not to show my work in Iran.
So they don't know you?
Not only, well, the young people know me because through the Facebook. But other than that, and some galleries know me, but no. Pardon me?
The question was whether or not Facebook is monitored there.
It is monitored, but they're not looking for photographers who do photography. They're looking for more political aspect of the people's what they put in there. So, yeah. I mean, if they go look for everyone who does something subversive, they're going to have to take over everybody. You see art exhibits over there that you would wonder, can they do this? But they are doing it, and nobody pays attention to them.
We have another question right here.
It's not really a question, but maybe just in the conversation. Because of the restrictions that the Iranian government puts on art and artists, I have found that the movies that come from Iranian movie makers are absolutely intriguing in the way that they are depicting the intimate sexual act, for example. They have these restrictions not being able to show the sexual act, but in the movie, they find ways
yes.
to show it. That touches on a much, much deeper level than the surface that we are used to in our Western world.
And
so
true.
when we see the restrictions that are the barriers that are put before artists and how they find ways to express themselves as artists, because it has to come out in some form or fashion, and they're creating some beautiful new ways of expression.
I think it just becomes more creative, because you have to be more creative to be able to bring that about, I think.
Another question? Yes, here up in the front.
Hello. I was just kind of curious, trying to understand the concept of, in the Western tradition, there's this idea about individuality and being and becoming, and for women in particular, I mean, the great strides have been done for women, and in the Western society, how is that affect? Like, how is that in compare and contrast to women in Iran? I mean, you know, the idea about being an individual and being so, I don't know, oppressed in some way in the sense of how you have to dress and the restrictions that are placed on you. I mean, it seems like there's such a huge contrast there.
You know, oppressed is very strong words. You would be surprised at how liberated some of these Iranian women are, and they're always sort of breaking the rules, you know, going beyond what is allowed. And sometimes as an Iranian American, again, you see a lot of women being, if we call it oppressed, you know, they're beaten by their husbands and things like that. You see all the time in news. So, you know, the government tries to depict that they are oppressing and they have rules that is oppressive to the Iranian women. But if you look inside and you really can look deep, the Iranian women, I believe, they are they're very strong, and every day they are making some changes on the streets, on the social level, for their children. And you see the movies, you see the arts that comes out from Iran. They're always sort of, you know, going beyond what's admitted, what's allowed. And I'm very proud of them, actually. And I'm not talking about only from the point of view from the very educated level of the group of people. I'm really talking about most conservative, traditional women, even in the household. They have a lot of power. You would be surprised. So.
Any more questions? Yes.
Well, as an Iranian Texan, there's some bragging rights. I think the one about the miniatures, the Persian miniatures, which is unlike most other Islamic countries.
Again, you know, we sort of address Islam in a very political way, and there's a spiritual side that is always overlooked. And I do not like that, because in the Western countries, always they are not really talking about what is the spiritual Islam. And of course, the government also is much more restrict and only enforcing the Sharia's law. That is why actually the division between the secular and the very religious people is this conflict between the two groups happening in Iran. It's because they all come from the tradition of Rumis and more spiritual, more allowing, more, you know, family values and things like that. But the government in Iran is trying to enforce that. I don't think it's really working. But what is happening is that we take that, they want to show the very restrictive Islamic society. And what the media does here is also only shows that. And that's what I have the problem. Because if we open it up, maybe people see other side of the Iran and the spiritual side of the Islam and how it's practiced in different countries, different cultures. So I'm hoping that by arts coming out of Middle East, people start looking at it in a different way and a different light.
Questions? Up towards the back there.
I was just wondering if you would like to talk a little bit about your artistic influences.
About
Your
Artistic influences.
artistic influences. There are. I was trained in America, of course, you know, in my education. I love Philip Lorca di Corsica. You know, I like Shirin Neshat's work. You know, there are many, many different ones that I can't remember right now, but every time it was a different, you know, artist that I looked at and, you know, got ideas and things like that, yes. Yes.
Early on, you alluded to a more subtle type of control of women and how they dress here in the West, and it seemed to me that your feelings about what's happened in Iran and the control there might have informed that in a way that many of us here in the West haven't thought about. I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit more.
What is the question specifically? I'm not
you
following
talked about how women's bodies were controlled in different ways here in America.
Right.
And I just wondered if you could talk about that a little bit more, because it seemed to me that your sensitivity to how that's been controlled in Iran informed you in a way that many of us might be blind to more subtle controls here in the West.
When I went back to Iran after 21 years, I was always working with the women issues. I really knew that how this capitalist society trying to use women's body, and I was working on that. I was very much interested in the women's body, in the fashion magazine, how they actually depict women and sell their stuff. So that was always in my mind. When I went back to Iran, of course, none of this existed. But in a different way, the body of the woman was controlled by just, every time there is some kind of a protest or political protest in Iran, they immediately emphasize on women. If the hair is showing, for example, if the hair is showing for a while, you're not taken by the moral police, they don't care. But the minute there's some kind of a political issue in the foreground where they're talking about it, the first thing they emphasize is that the moral police comes and takes your daughter or your wife because they're not dressed properly, and that actually takes the attention of the male, away from the political scene. And that's how, you're controlling actually just by using the woman and the woman body.
One last question, perhaps?
I'm curious to know a little bit about your working process from now on, because you've talked about what you've been doing over the last 5 years or 10 years. What are you thinking about now? What's the next step?
I am actually going more toward a video. I have a video project that I like to do, a video piece that I like to do. And of course, video is completely sort of a different medium for me. I have not approached it. I have done some video, but the way that I wanted to do it, so I have to research it and go back to Iran to be able to depict what I want to actually videotape. So video would be one, and then I'm going mostly to a 3D pieces, object.
Sculptural work?
A sculptural work.
Mm-hmm.
That has some photography in it.
Photo sculpture?
Yes.
Yes.
Sort of.
Well, that really
includes some objects that are dear to me and I pick up in Iran, and also the photographs that I have. So that's what I'm
Well, we will all eagerly await to see what comes next in the art of Soody Sharifi. And Soody, thank you so much for coming from Houston and joining us tonight.
Actually, this exhibit has traveled all over Europe, and I have attended a couple of them, and then here it has gone 3 places, and it was so wonderful. I was so thrilled to finish up in Texas, because I am, of course, a Texan as well. So it was so wonderful to come here and finish the exhibit.
And we are so thrilled to have the show here at SAMA. Thank you all very much.